Imagine a landscape of unparalleled privilege, a world defined by ancient stone, manicured lawns, and centuries of tradition, where every smile is scrutinized and every glance parsed for deeper meaning. It is a world most of us only glimpse through a carefully constructed veneer of duty and decorum. But beneath that polished surface, a quieter, more personal drama is unfolding, a slow-burn narrative that speaks less of grand proclamations and more of silent yearnings and unexpected, profound isolation. In the intricate tapestry of modern royal history, few threads are as frayed or as emotionally charged as the one connecting two brothers, once considered an inseparable unit against the world, now navigating an unprecedented chasm. The narrative we thought we understood, the one of definitive breaks and resolute steps toward an independent, sun-dappled future, may be subtly shifting, revealing a complex undercurrent of human vulnerability. It is a story not just of palaces and protocols, but of fundamental human connections and the painful space where expectations clash with reality. The focus often falls on the bold statements, the explosive interviews, and the dramatic departures that captured the world's attention, casting a shadow of conflict that seemed immutable. Yet, if we listen closely, if we delve into the subtle whispers and quiet revelations that occasionally pierce the silence, a different picture emerges. Not of anger, but of a quiet, persistent longing that defies the easy categorization of betrayal and estrangement. It's a powerful image. The dynamic duo, the heir and spare, walking side by side, their bond forged in shared experience and an understanding that few others could truly comprehend. That image, once a pillar of public perception, has been systematically dismantled, replaced by a narrative of resentment and irreversible fractures. But perhaps the most compelling human drama isn't found in the public broadsides, but in the private moments of contemplation, in the quiet spaces of a California mansion where the echo of a forgotten life might still resonate. We have become accustomed to the noise, to the back and forth of public statements and sensational headlines that paint a picture of a relationship beyond repair. But what if, beneath the carefully curated image of independence and fulfillment, there exists a more relatable, more vulnerable truth? A truth that centers not on political maneuvering or calculated media strategy, but on a simple, universal human emotion, the desire to feel needed, to be valued, and ultimately to reconnect. The narrative of freedom from royal constraints is seductive, suggesting a definitive triumph over tradition. However, the reality of existence outside the protective, if suffocating, embrace of the monarchy may be proving more challenging, more isolating than initially anticipated. This is not just about institutional protocols or the distribution of patronages. It is about the profound emotional weight of severing connections that are, in essence, fundamental to one's identity. A compelling new account has surfaced, a detailed exploration that cuts through the established commentary to expose a layer of sentiment previously unconsidered. It paints a picture, not of resolute defiance, but of a man wrestling with the unforeseen consequences of a momentous decision, a man quietly yearning for a glimpse of the familiar amidst the gloss and glamour of his new surroundings. While the public narrative centers on a successful reinvention, this account suggests a quiet regret, a persistent longing that lingers beneath the surface. It details a private hope, a subtle wish that the path chosen by the elder brother might have proven less assured, less successful, in order to create a moment, a vulnerability, that might allow for a tentative reconnection. The image of the independent prince, thriving in an egalitarian society, is contrasted with a subtle portrayal of a man waiting for a call that never comes, a silent plea for acknowledgement and, perhaps, for reassurance. This is the intriguing landscape we are exploring today, a space where public perception clashes with potential private realities. Before we delve into the heart of this explosive and emotionally resonant report, we must first invite you to join our growing community of observers and commentators. Engaging with our analysis, sharing your thoughts, and staying informed is vital to understanding the nuanced reality behind the headlines. Therefore, we invite you to subscribe to The Royalist and become part of our dedicated group of viewers. Your participation, your comments, and your shared interest are invaluable in helping us provide the detailed and insightful coverage you expect. This initial segment usually hints the complexity of the dynamic at play. a dynamic that transcends the simple feud narrative so often presented. It introduces a subtle undercurrent of vulnerability and nostalgia that challenges the notion of an easy, unambiguous break from the past. The intricate details, the deep-seated motivations, and the profound implications for both the individuals involved and the institution itself are yet to be fully revealed. The groundwork has been laid, establishing an atmosphere of quiet introspection and simmering tension, a prelude to the detailed analysis that follows. It suggests that the true story may lie not in the dramatic public statements, but in the quiet, private regrets and the unspoken longings that define relationships, even ones lived under the intense glare of global scrutiny. The narrative moves beyond the surface-level conflicts to explore the deeper, more resonant emotional truths that lie beneath, hinting at a story that is as much about human vulnerability as it is about institutional protocol. The stage is set for a deeper exploration of a family divided, where public success hides private pain, and where a silent longing for the past coexists with a resolute commitment to the future. It is a story of contrasts, of public statements versus private realities, and of two brothers once united, now navigating separate and increasingly divergent paths, yet inextricably linked by blood, history, and a shared experience that continues to cast a long and powerful shadow over their present and future. As the intricate dance of royal duty and personal ambition continues to unfold before the global audience, the true depth of the fracture within the House of Windsor becomes undeniably apparent, shifting from quiet undercurrents into sharp, public relief. The grand theater of a family gathering, specifically the recent and lavish wedding of Peter Phillips and Harriet Spurling, served as a stunning canvas for these modern royal dynamics, offering a masterclass in the art of public performance versus private policy. Beneath the celebratory atmosphere, the heavy rain, and the parade of fabulous frocks and high fashion worn by the assembled family, a single fleeting interaction captured the attention of astute observers and ignited social media, even as traditional news outlets overlooked its profound significance. It was a momentary gesture, a fraction of a second, when Prince William arrived at the reception, leaned in, and planted a swift kiss on the cheek of his cousin, Princess Beatrice. To the casual viewer, this peck appeared to be a heartening sign of solidarity, an affectionate display of family unity during a time of immense institutional stress. However, for those versed in the ruthless pragmatism that governs the upper echelons of the monarchy, the gesture carried a far more chilling connotation, evoking a cinematic ruthlessness where an embrace precedes a definitive betrayal, almost simultaneously. While that public kiss was being photographed and analyzed, the Prince of Wales's communication team was actively briefing journalists behind the scenes, delivering a stark and uncompromising message regarding the future of the institution. The focus of this strategic briefing was the highly controversial arrangement surrounding Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie, who have effectively lived rent-free for 2 decades in some of the most desirable, ultra-prime real estate in central London, their palatial residences funded under the private supervision of the king. The message from William's camp was entirely unambiguous. This comfortable arrangement, a relic of an older and less accountable era, is deemed completely unacceptable and will be summarily terminated when he ascends the throne. The strategic timing of this briefing transformed a simple familial embrace into a clear declaration of intent, a powerful signal that personal warmth must never be mistaken for a concession in policy. It highlighted a stark reality where those who perform no official public duties can no longer expect to be subsidized by the crown, establishing a definitive line between the inner circle of working royals and those who have become a reputational liability. This tension is further complicated by the shadowy legacy of their father, Prince Andrew, whose catastrophic fall from grace and prominent appearance in the unsealed Epstein files continued to cast a dark, lingering shadow over his daughters. The York princesses have found themselves increasingly viewed as accessories to a damaged brand, connected to murky financial networks and disastrous public relations missteps, including Beatrice's infamous role in orchestrating her father's catastrophic television interview. For William, the primary objective is absolute insulation from this contamination, a determination to protect the long-term survival of the monarchy from the reputational hazards posed by his extended family. This approach stands in direct, fascinating opposition to the philosophy of King Charles, who views a successful day as one where the entire family gathers, past conflicts are buried, and a unified traditional front is presented to the public. Rooted in a desire for harmony and a belief that extended family members should be supported behind closed doors, the British royal family operates fundamentally along the lines of a strict military hierarchy, where rank dictates behavior and absolute obedience to the sovereign is paramount. Consequently, when the king decreed that the York princesses would attend the wedding, William complied with absolute respect for his father's position, performing his public duties with flawless politeness and grace. Yet, the parallel briefing to the press exposed the presence of a highly organized, deeply strategic shadow administration operating within the Prince of Wales's court. This shadow faction is actively carping against decisions it dislikes, setting the stringent terms for the next reign, and positioning William as the modernizing force of the future while treating the current king's tenure as a transitional period. This shifting balance of power initially accelerated 2 years ago when Charles publicly shared his cancer diagnosis, causing a significant influx of authority to flow toward the younger prince's court as the institution braced for an uncertain future. A powerful precedent for this independent streak occurred earlier during a high-profile diplomatic visit to Saudi Arabia, an engagement where William's team had invested immense political and logistical capital. While the prince was in mid-air en route to Riyadh, a fresh wave of horrific allegations against Prince Andrew emerged, complete with deeply damaging photographs from the Epstein townhouse. William's team had previously spent weeks begging and pressuring the king to issue a definitive statement distancing the crown from Andrew, but Charles had repeatedly procrastinated, reluctant to take harsh public action against his brother. Frustrated by the palace's paralysis and determined to protect his diplomatic mission from being entirely overwhelmed by scandal, William took matters into his own hands, issuing a sharp, independent statement of profound concern from his own office. The reaction from the king's camp was one of absolute fury at what was perceived as a blatant attempt to jump the gun and dictate royal policy. In a move that completely blindsided the traveling delegation, the king issued his own sweeping statement of concern just as William stepped onto the tarmac in Saudi Arabia, noting that the palace stood ready to cooperate fully with law enforcement. While the content of the king's message was exactly what William had been demanding for weeks, the deliberate timing of its release completely torpedoed the diplomatic tour, instantly shifting the global media focus away from international relations and squarely back onto the sordid details of the family scandal. The sheer chaos of the moment was so absolute that traveling press photographers immediately abandoned their assignments and booked flights home, refusing to be stranded abroad while a senior member of the royal family faced potential legal jeopardy back in the United Kingdom. This corporate dysfunction, where the chief executive of a subsidiary division and the leader of the parent company issue competing global statements on the exact same topic within hours of each other, highlights a profound and deeply competitive instinct that thrives even during moments of existential crisis. It exposes a relentless battle for narrative control, a struggle that plays out across the pages of Sunday broadsheets and through carefully coordinated leaks. Even as the king's medical team now reports tremendous success with advanced immunotherapy and specialized treatments, suggesting he may well live a full natural lifespan, the power that flowed toward William is not easily reclaimed. Charles is actively fighting to assert his absolute authority, attempting to rein in the future-proofing briefings of his heir and remind the court that he remains the sovereign. Yet, the machinery of the next reign continues to grind forward with an independent momentum that refuses to be suppressed. The commercial realities and management styles of these competing courts have created an environment of intense scrutiny, where every financial arrangement is analyzed for its long-term sustainability. While the established members of the family navigate the complex transition of power in London, the exiled branch of the family in California watches from a distance, trapped in a parallel struggle against diminishing resources and commercial stagnation. The stark reduction of their operational infrastructure, shrinking from a once boasting team of 16 full-time professionals down to a mere handful of employees, tells a damning story of an empire that is failing to launch. The high-stakes world of Hollywood production has proven notoriously brutal, and the initial wave of massive, highly lucrative media contracts has failed to transform into a sustainable, long-term entertainment identity. Instead, the exiled couple finds themselves increasingly reliant on a fluctuating brand value, trapped in a cycle where their ambitions consistently outweigh their ability to execute, leaving them isolated from the very structures that once guaranteed their global influence. The commercial and structural stagnation facing the Duke and Duchess of Sussex in their California exile brings us directly to the emotional and existential core of this modern royal tragedy, revealing a profound sense of personal loss that transcends mere financial calculation. While the public image they presented to the world was one of triumphant liberation, resolute independence, and a glamorous entry into the upper echelons of American celebrity culture, the underlying reality has proven to be an incredibly isolating experience for Prince Henry. Stripped of the massive, protective, and deeply comforting institutional infrastructure that had meticulously organized every hour of his life since birth, he now finds himself navigating an unfamiliar and transactional landscape where he possesses no natural aptitude. Inside the walls of their Montecito residence, away from the carefully stage-managed public appearances, a deep-seated nostalgia and a restless longing for his homeland have reportedly taken firm root. This is a man who spent his entire youth defined by the tight-knit camaraderie of the British military, the easy banter of the household cavalry mess, the roaring crowds of British rugby stadiums, and a loyal, lifetime circle of aristocratic friends who understood his unique position without explanation. Today, that vibrant, supportive community has vanished, replaced by an incredibly small and fragile social orbit where his most consistent companion and confidant is his own contracted personal security chief. This profound isolation has fostered a deeply complex psychological dynamic between the two brothers, culminating in the stunning revelation that Harry has spent months quietly waiting for a call that never comes. According to intimate sources still operating within the periphery of the Sussex orbit, the prince did not view his departure as a permanent severing of ties, but rather as a dramatic intervention that would eventually force a restructuring of the royal hierarchy. He had secretly, deeply harbored the hope that his elder brother would face overwhelming structural struggles, severe public relations challenges, and an unmanageable burden of state duties in his absence. In Harry's mind, a struggling, overwhelmed William would eventually be forced by sheer necessity to pick up the telephone, swallow his pride, and appeal to his younger brother to return across the Atlantic to help share the crushing weight of the crown. This anticipated phone call was envisioned as the ultimate validation, a dream come true that would allow Harry to return to the United Kingdom on his own terms, recognized finally as an indispensable partner rather than a superfluous secondary figure. It was a desire rooted not in active malice, but in a desperate, deeply human need to be missed, to be valued, and to see the person he left behind acknowledge that the institution was fundamentally weaker without him. But the reality has been an incredibly bitter pill to swallow, as Prince William has not only survived the immense pressures of the past several years, but has systematically blossomed, thrived, and solidified his position as an incredibly effective, highly popular, and modernizing leader. He has successfully demonstrated that the core monarchy can operate with absolute efficiency as a streamlined, highly focused unit, completely exposing the reality that Harry is simply not required for the institutional survival of the House of Windsor. This realization has inflicted a profound sense of loss upon the younger brother, who must watch from a distant shore as his sibling moves forward into the future with absolute confidence, entirely unburdened by the absence of the self-described spare. The path to any potential reconciliation has been rendered entirely impassable by the explosive and highly personal broadsides delivered in Harry's memoir and various media projects, which completely shattered the foundational trust required for familial restoration, the true breaking point. According to those who understand the inner workings of the Prince of Wales's court, was the decision to drag the Princess of Wales into the public conflict, leveling deeply hurtful and highly personal accusations against a woman who is currently navigating her own profound health challenges. For William, this was an unforgivable transgression that violated the absolute sanctity of his immediate family, leading to a permanent, irreversible royal reset where Harry has been entirely excised from his life, thoughts, and his future planning. The absolute finality of this estrangement was vividly illustrated following Catherine's public cancer diagnosis, an event that shocked the global community and prompted a formal, tentative message of support from the Sussexes. This gesture went entirely unreciprocated, viewed by the Wales court as an incredibly hollow and unwanted intervention from individuals who had spent years subjecting their family to immense, calculated stress. William privately retains the firm conviction that the relentless public betrayals, the psychological warfare, and the constant threat of media exposure from California served as an active, detrimental factor in the overwhelming stress his family had to endure. Making any future interaction a complete impossibility, the tragedy is compounded by the reality that Harry now deeply regrets the specific natures of the accusations he leveled against his father and his brother. Recognizing too late that his words effectively destroyed any realistic avenue of communication. While his public representatives must maintain a defiant stance, claiming he stands by the absolute truth of his testimony, those close to him acknowledge a profound distinction between standing by one's words and deeply regretting the catastrophic results those words have produced. He is trapped in a gray area of his own making, longing for the comfort of his home country, the security of his old life, and the ability to perform the meaningful philanthropic work he genuinely loves, yet entirely unable to construct a viable pathway back. The dynamic between the couple themselves remains incredibly strong, bound by a deep and genuine marital affection, yet they find themselves pulling toward completely different destinies. Harry yearns for a quiet, respected life of traditional British philanthropy, while his wife remains fiercely focused on building a high-profile, ultra-glamorous lifestyle empire modeled after the financial titans of modern American capitalism. This profound divergence in philosophy is perfectly illustrated by their completely contradictory approaches to personal privacy and social media, creating an undeniable public disconnect that continues to erode their credibility. While Harry has stood sobbing in a London courtroom, delivering emotional testimony about the absolute horror of being commercialized and forced to perform for the public against his consent. His family's daily existence in America is simultaneously being utilized to fuel a burgeoning lifestyle business. The public is treated to carefully curated glimpses of their young children on digital platforms, ostensibly designed to protect their privacy by obscuring their faces, yet strategically deployed to celebrate birthdays, promote luxury consumer brands, and maintain a high-value commercial profile. This practice has drawn immense criticism from childhood development experts and media analysts alike, who argue that utilizing a child's private milestones to sustain an entertainment brand is a profound contradiction for individuals who routinely lecture the global public on the absolute necessity of online safety and digital protection for youth. Ultimately, this ongoing saga exposes a profound power shift that is fundamentally reshaping the British monarchy, transitioning it from the traditional all-inclusive family model favored by King Charles to the lean, corporate, and entirely uncompromising institution envisioned by Prince William. The era of the extended royal family living comfortably in historic palaces while pursuing private interests is drawing to a swift and permanent close, replaced by a strict, performance-based hierarchy where proximity to the throne requires absolute adherence to institutional discipline and flawless public accountability. As the king continues his recovery, attempting to hold together the traditional structures of his mother's long reign, the shadows administration of the next generation is already firmly established, dictating the terms of the future and demonstrating a cold, modern pragmatism that values reputational survival above all else. Prince Henry remains a poignant spectator to this transformation, a man who abandoned his birthright in search of a freedom that has ultimately delivered a quiet, persistent exile, waiting by a silent telephone for a brother who has already moved resolutely into the future without him.